It'll pop up there. All right, we should be live. Make sure everything looks, it's literally like putting the rocket into space here. All right, cool. And make sure our view is gallery. To make sure you're on the show. Perfect. We're all on. Excellent. Make sure everything is cool. I think we're ready to begin.
All right.
Greetings and welcome everyone to the Psychic Mediums live show where we talk about all things spiritual and paranormal. I'm your host, Kevin Paul. I'm a psychic and medium in Washington, D.C. And today our topic is Chaos Magic. And my special guest is Sanre, who is a modern mystic, intuitive tarot reader, a numerologist, and the host of the Order of Chaos podcast. Sanre has been studying metaphysics and the occult for over 20 years and is well-versed in many traditions of magic and esoteric philosophy. And if you have any questions for us, please place your questions in the comment section of this live broadcast, and I will get to them after our interview. And this show will be recorded and placed on my Facebook page and on my YouTube channel called Kevin Paul Psychic Medium. Welcome, Sanre, and thank you so much for being on my show today.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
And tell everybody where you're living right now.
I'm located near Toronto in Ontario, Canada.
Oh, we love Canada.
Yeah, we love Canada.
So, Sanre, please tell everyone a little bit about yourself and your spiritual and metaphysical journey to Chaos Magic. And then we'll dive into what Chaos Magic is all about.
Sure. So my metaphysical journey actually started with atheistic Levian Satanism. This is shortly after my dad passed away when I was 12. I was raised to be an atheist, but after losing my dad, I was kind of looking for something else. And I went to, I tried church when a friend recommended it, and that did not go very well. And I'm going to leave it at that. And so I kind of just, coinciding at the same time, I had this deep, deep inner calling to magic. I knew that something was up. I knew that there was something to this. I'm probably about 14 by now. And I walked into a bookstore in Santa Cruz, California. And I just saw the word metaphysics. And I thought, I think that's what it is that I'm looking for. And so I walked over there and started perusing books. And the first book I picked up was the Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey. And at the same time, I think I also purchased a book called Urban Voodoo. And I just started devouring this material. And, you know, being an angry, angsty teenager, the Satanic Bible really appealed to me. Now, you know, and I've branched out since then considerably into other practices. But that's where it started for me. And I still really love that book because I believe still to this day that Anton LaVey gives one of the best explanations of magic and how it operates that I've ever read in my life. But since then, I really branched out into numerology and astrology and reading tarot cards. And then I got really into Hermetic magic and Hermeticism, into the Kabbalah. I got real deep into New Age philosophy and beliefs for a while. And so fast forward many years, I spent a tremendous amount of time studying occult topics, just anything I could get my hands on. Until I found a book called Liber Null by Peter J. Carroll, which is the foundational text on Chaos Magic. And having had experience at this point performing spells of various types, from satanic magic to Wiccan magic to trying, you know, just meditation and intention setting, and you know, all these different practices, whatever I could get my hands on, and trying it and having success with multiple areas of magic, it became really apparent to me that there isn't one correct religion or esoteric truth that is like, no, this is the right one. Right. I know a lot of people really cling to their belief system as if that's the one that's correct and everyone else has got it wrong. And I think that's really silly. I've always thought that it was silly. And the great thing about chaos magic is that it does away with all of that. and instead focuses on the use of belief as a tool. Now, you can believe whatever you want, but it's important to understand that your beliefs matter, and the beliefs that you choose and mold for yourself are molding how you experience reality. That's really the nature and basis of chaos magic, and that was really appealing to me. It really went well with my understanding of the Buddhist concept of emptiness, um, and that life and reality, the meaning behind it is the meaning we ascribe to it, which is incredibly freeing and powerful. And it also goes really well with the Hermetic principle of mentalism, and the principles of correspondence, as above, so below. All of these things kind of coalesce into a chaos magic practice that really works for me and allows me to be free within my practice and not stick to some other rigid structure that doesn't resonate with me. And that's what I think is one of the most beautiful things about chaos magic, is that you create a practice that is deeply personal to you, the same way that a mixed martial artist forges a style that is personal to them by combining various styles together into something that is, effective for that person. The chaos magician forges a style of magic that is personal to them and effective for them, and that's perfect for me, because I've never been a follower. I've always been someone who wants to do my own thing.
What is the chaos in chaos magic? Why is it called chaos?
I mean, probably for that reason, that we have no dogma, we have no belief structure, except for the belief that belief is a tool, and that your beliefs shape your view of reality. I mean, you start from true chaos, from nothingness, from there are no rules, there are no laws, there are no objective gods or deities. These are things we come to understand in a different way. Well, I mean, that's up to you. That's up to the practitioner. If you want to be theistic or atheistic, it totally doesn't matter with chaos magic. And I think that's where the term chaos comes from, is that there are no defined rules. One of the principal axioms of chaos magic is nothing is true, everything is permitted.
Nothing is true, everything is permitted.
Right.
Thoughts are things,
Things are thoughts.
and things are thoughts.
Yeah.
We can create with our beliefs or with our thoughts, right?
Well, your beliefs are a lens through which you view reality, and everything. What you believe to be true is what you're inevitably going to experience, because you don't experience the universe or the outside world the way it really is. You experience a version of it created by your brain. And you have a measure of control over that, but people don't realize it. If you don't take that control, which is to say you don't use magic in any way, shape, or form. I mean, people are doing magic all the time, they're just unaware of it. Right? Every thought is a prayer, every word is a spell. That's very true. When you take control over how you choose to view reality, you gain a tremendous amount of control over reality. That's the great occult secret. I mean, to me, that's what all magic boils down to, is, are you in control of your consciousness or not? Everything on top of that is symbolism. And you can choose whatever symbolism works for you. If you like the symbolism of this religion, go with it. If you like the symbolism of this one, go with it. If you want to mix and match, that's fine. It's about your personal relationship to the universe, rather than here's how you're supposed to do it, and then do it this way. Which again, if that's what appeals to some people, that's great. If you find yourself at home in a particular practice that's maybe your ancestral practice, or one that you've just grown into that you love, there's nothing wrong with that. I just personally kind of think that all magic essentially is chaos magic. It's just that some of these systems have been refined into something really beautiful, where chaos magic might be a slab of marble, and thelema might be, a sculpture. But the sculpture came from the slab of marble. The chaos magic looks at the root causes.
What are the elements within chaos magic that you're talking about? We talk about magic. Everyone talks about magic.
Well, there's... Oh, you cut out there for a second. Sorry. You were saying, what are the elements?
What is magic in the world of chaos magic, and those who practice chaos magic? What is magic? When you say we do magic, what are the elements of magic? Spells, manifestations?
I would Yeah, all of that. It's whatever you want it to be. I mean, I know that that's kind of an annoying answer, but with chaos magic, that always is the answer. It's whatever you want it to be. There are no defined structures or rules. Certainly consciousness is a very important factor to all magical practices, no matter what terms you're going by. Peter Carroll, who wrote Liber Null, referred to what we might know commonly as the Tao. He referred to it as Kia, this unseen, invisible force that permeates the universe. I call it consciousness. In some traditions, it's called the black flame. It could be the Tao. It could be Kia. You could call it the force. It it doesn't really matter. It's the unseen web that connects all things. That is the one and only real element that we're dealing with in chaos magic. Now you can branch out into elemental magic if that resonates with you, and that's something you want to incorporate into your own personal belief system, and thereby, that's when you're really doing chaos magic, is when you form a belief system that works for you. Now that might be wonderful. Now, I personally, when I think of the elements, a lot of people think of earth, fire, wind, and water. Me having a real love of Norse paganism, I tend to think of ice, fire, earth, and air. I think of ice rather than water. That's just because that's what resonates with me more personally. Right. And on top of that, when I create a magic circle, I will use the traditional 4 points, and then I'll create 4 more. And to me, that's time, space, mind, and energy. Now, not everyone uses those. That's a system that I've developed for myself, because that's just what works for me. And that, again, is what's so beautiful about chaos magic, is it's all about what works for you. It's about how you develop your own personal relationship to what we could call Kia, or the Tao, or we could call it chaos, which was in the Greek mythology, the primordial nothingness from which all else arose was chaos.
So how does somebody become a chaos magician?
I think reading Liber Null is a good start. Just to get the foundation from the man who created it himself. There are several other books. Condensed Chaos by Phil Hine. There's one by the Gallery of Magic. I can't remember the name of it, but if you Google search the Gallery of Magic, Chaos Magic, you'll find it. Reading is a really good start, but also if you have an urge to do magic, but you aren't drawn to any other particular system, then try chaos magic. And what's interesting, one of the cool things about chaos magic to me, one of the things that's appealing about it, is that if you were talking about another practice and you were to say, what are the tools we use? There might be traditional tools like a dagger, a cup, a pentacle, a chain, the cube. There are lots of things. But for a chaos magician, our primary tool is this right here, is a pen and paper. Sigils are a foundational aspect of chaos magic.
Sigils are graphics, right? Of manifestation, right?
Yeah. So a sigil, if you're going to use Peter Carroll's method, and there are many different types of sigils. In fact, the runes from Norse mythology are themselves a type of sigil. There are sigils in the Goetia, but if you're talking about chaos magic sigils, as described by Peter Carroll, it would be the writing out of a statement of intent, or just say what you want to happen. One that I always encourage my clients to start out with is the phrase, I am always in the right place at the right time. And so here's the process. You write out your phrase, and then you take a pen and you scratch out all the repeating letters. And then you can scratch out all the vowels. That's optional. Some people like to do it, some people don't. And then you take the remaining letters and you turn them into a symbol. You mish them together and mix them together into some kind of visually appealing symbol that you can continue to refine and refine. But what you're doing as you do this is you're taking a statement of intent, a desire, and you're putting it out into the universe by forcing it down into your subconscious mind. And the way you're doing it is by taking letters that you recognize and transforming them into an abstract, into a symbol. So you're taking them from your conscious left brain and pushing it through symbolism into your subconscious right brain, which is the part of your mind that's more connected to the universe. And it's the part of your mind that you use as a psychic medium when you're connecting however you do. You're not using that conscious thinking mind, that the
you
inner voice. You have to shut that out. Yeah. you shut that voice out and go to your subconscious mind, right? So we're doing this with a pen and paper through symbolism when we create sigils.
So it's the intention, ritualizing it. So it's, I mean, it seems like every different type of metaphysical practice that we're all kind of doing the same thing, but a little differently. We just have different rituals, different ways of saying, okay, I want to manifest. I want something in my life. I want to make it happen. There are probably many different ways of doing that. And sigils are definitely, a graphic way. It's a very visual thing. It's personal, it's intimate. You made it, it's something when you look at it, it reminds you of what your intention was, what your desire, and that helps propel and bring it to you from the universe, or however that people like to describe it. Bring it to yourself through the ritual, through the intention.
Yes, and through the power of symbolism, which we all know has a huge effect on the human mind, right? Because anytime you see those golden arches, you want French fries every time, because symbolism has a powerful effect on you. It goes right past your conscious mind into your subconscious mind, which is 50 million times more powerful than your conscious thinking mind is. It's the part of your brain you don't have access to. It's the part of your brain you dream with. It's the part of your brain that, is growing your hair and beating your heart right now.
Right.
You're forcing it down into that much more powerful part of your own brain. And that's the part, like I said, that's connected to source and connected to the universe. And through this type of sympathetic magic of spelling out your desire, literally spelling it out and then turning into a symbol, you're kind of, I like to think of it as like a handshake you're making with the universe, that this is going to be your manifestation.
Now, do you have any psychic or development that you've gone through, or mediumship development, or anything in that area?
Sort of. So I was in a really, really amazing, very special martial arts class when I was a kid. We were doing Taekwondo, and unbeknownst to me, our sensei was teaching us about energy healing. I thought it was just part of the martial art. But he taught us a lot about energy healing. And then later on in life, I did go through Reiki training. I don't do Reiki professionally. It's just something I use to cure my own arthritis, and it worked incredibly well. And I'm super grateful for that. But what happened with me was I had been studying these esoteric concepts since I was a teenager, but I was studying them. And I was using magic, but I always used magic out of a sense of like last resort desperation. And when I was in my earlier 20s, especially when I was really a career focused person, it wasn't a daily part of my life. But when I did use it, it was so powerful, and it always brought exactly what I needed into my life.
A manifestation spell,
yeah.
right?
And then a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I started studying sacred geometry, and something crazy happened. So I started studying sacred geometry. It was just on to the next topic for me. And I was sitting there with a compass in my hand, and I was drawing out the circles. And as I did that, I was put into this unbelievable trance state, and had what would be, I guess you could only describe as a Kundalini Awakening experience, where my spirit guides introduced themselves to me. I started having conversations with them. They started guiding me on the road to doing what it is I'm doing now. And so ever since that experience, I've put a tremendous amount of emphasis onto meditation. And so I have a daily meditation practice that's super crucial to me. And that's how I form my connection. I've always been forging my own path. Also through studying the tarot, just knowing the tarot cards and being intimate with the tarot, you will form a psychic connection, and you will build that psychic muscle. But I feel that a daily meditation practice where you're just strengthening the connection that you have to the metaphysical realm is the most important thing. I don't really believe there's any system that's like, this is the right way you should do it.
Of course. Yeah, there are many ways of skinning a cat, as they say.
Yeah.
So what is your process for meditation? And are you zenning out, or are you doing guided meditation yourself? Are you listening to guided meditation? What's going on?
I occasionally do my guided meditations when they have a specific effect that I'm interested in. Not very often. I use binaural beats. I use earbuds, and I use a very special blindfold called a mindfold that creates an environment of total darkness.
Oh, okay.
So for me, it's the combination of the binaural beats and the meditation mask that, like, I'm cheating. That's what I do. Okay, I'm a double Leo. I'm going to find the easy way to do this. So rather than sitting saying Om over and over again until I vibrate that correct area of my brain.
Right.
I'm going to go ahead and pop in my earbuds and use binaural beats to put myself into a theta state or an alpha state or a gamma state, depending on what I want to do, right? And my total blindness mask, and just boom, it's so powerful. But the process for me, because there's so many different types of meditation, the one that I use is I just try to fall as deep into that space as I possibly can. I don't really use single pointed focus. I'm not focusing on one particular thought. I'm not trying for anything. I'm attempting to be as open and silent as I possibly can be.
Clear your mind.
I'm going for an effect of no thought whatsoever, just total blank emptiness, because in that space is when you are most receptive to your spirit guides. Now, this is important because you can be receptive to negative entities in this space as well too. So I do use a bit of protection magic. I use a version of the LBRP, again, very, very, very lazy left-hand path version of the LBRP that I created. And I always state in my mind when I'm going into that meditative state that I do not consent to interact with any negative entities or entities that don't have my best interests at heart. Right. And I know who my spirit guides are and what they sound like, and what that connection is like. But for those of you listening, if you're going to use this type of meditation, it's important to use a little bit of protection, because there are lower vibrational negative entities out there. I'm not going to use the word demons because that's the wrong word and people get it really mixed up all the time. So let's avoid that. But let's say there are parasites. There are absolutely astral parasites out there. So protect yourself from them just by saying, I don't consent to interact with you.
Exactly.
And if one does approach you and you get a bad vibe from it, you tell it to go away.
Exactly.
But aside from that, I just try to be as open as possible. And I want to connect with as many higher consciousnesses as I can.
And so do you go with questions, or do you just listen for a voice and then you ask those spirit guides? How do you interact with your spirit guides? How do you do it?
So if I have a question, then I will go into the meditative state with the question in mind.
Intention.
Yeah, usually I don't. Usually I'm open to whatever it is they want to tell me. For me, if I have a very specific question, I'm more likely to go to my tarot cards, and I'm more likely to do a meditation first, maybe do 10 minutes of just strengthening that connection with no questions, just pure silence, and then go to my tarot cards.
Got it.
And then ask the specific questions.
So we've talked about spirit guides. What does Chaos Magick teach about cleansing spaces, people, getting rid of, evil energy? Are there particular spells? What is a Chaos Magick does in those scenarios?
I can't think of any particular Chaos Magick specific banishing ritual. A lot of Chaos magicians will do something similar to what I do, which is a simplified version of the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, which can be found in the Golden Dawn books. I think, again, we all just do what works and what resonates for us, and that could be smoke cleansing. It could be a banishing ritual. I know that there are many Chaos magicians. In fact, I was just talking about this on my podcast with at the Devil's Advocate 415, who's my friend Lucas. He uses a banishing that can be found in the Simon Necronomicon. So again, for Chaos magicians, it's about finding the one that works for you or making one up. The most Chaos Magick thing you can ever really do is make it up for yourself.
And if it works,
try it again. Yeah, and to take a very experimental approach to your magic, document everything that happens, write down what you tried, write down how effective you thought it was. Say I wrote down, I tried it this way and I would give it 5 out of 10 effectiveness. And then maybe next time try another way. And that's how we like to approach magic, with this very analytical, experimental point of view, typically. But again, I can't. The thing about Chaos magicians is I can't speak for any other Chaos magicians. We are so individual and unique. Like, yes, we all have something in common, and that we practice Chaos magic, but that will be very different from one person to another.
Right. And I'm starting to understand the freedom that comes with it. The intention of, okay, we want to manifest, or we want to connect to the higher good, or gather information through, spirit guides or from the universe. It's just kind of this group that are kind of Okay, like the rebels of the metaphysical world, you know, you
Yeah.
guys go by your own rules and use a little bit of this from this group or a little bit of that from that group. And so I started to understand chaos magic now.
Yeah, and it's not just about borrowing from other practices. I mean, that can certainly be a part of it. A lot of times, though, it's about creating your own ritual or your
And
own
creating
system,
your own.
creating your own. Yeah, that's really at the essence of it, because it's about that creativity. I mean, creativity is so close to inspiration, which is so close to divinity. I mean, that practice right there in being creative, you're going to be strengthening your magical connection just by exercising that. Um, I think that most chaos magicians have probably read Liber Null and are familiar with the process of making a sigil at the very least.
Okay, that seems to
But
be.
we don't treat it like a Bible at all. For
Mhm.
example, Peter Null in I mean Peter Carroll in Liber Null writes that he has pretty low opinions of astrology, whereas me personally, I find astrology to be the most accurate of all divination practices.
Mm,
But that's just my experience.
right. What are some of your tools of the trade for you in this metaphysical world? You talked about tarot.
Yeah, tarot is my anchor.
That's your
Tarot is
go-to.
my business. You can book a private tarot with me, reading with me. I don't do professional spell casting, but tarot is the tool that I was most drawn to. And I have some other chaos magic friends who want nothing to do with tarot.
Mm,
But that's when I first picked up a deck of cards. There was an instant connection. It was like lightning, and it was just like, this is for you. This is what you're supposed to do, and this is how the mysteries really make the most sense to me, because tarot is a culmination of numerology and astrology and symbolism and magical practices all rolled into one. So what I do, for me, so for my personal practice, tarot is a very important tool.
mhm.
My favorite tarot deck was created by Travis McHenry, and it is a Goetic tarot deck called the Occult Tarot. I
Mhm.
have it right here. This is the Occult Tarot. So this deck is not only a tarot deck; it is also a Goetia grimoire built into a tarot deck. It's an incredibly effective piece of magical equipment, I would say. Travis created something really special with this, and I've talked to many other people. It was only released maybe about a year ago, and
Mhm.
I've talked to so many people who have had very powerful experiences with it. But I have many other decks as well that I love very much. But that one to me is kind of this almost ultimate tarot deck, because it incorporates the Goetia into it. It's grimoire magic and a tarot deck. I have on my altar over here off camera. When I'm working with the Goetic entities, I will take whichever card is appropriate. Right now, I'm working with Boone, and set that card up as the centerpiece of my altar.
What's on
And then
your
the
altar?
range. Well, right now I've got candles and incense and an offering dish. And then I built it and painted it and everything myself. On the inside is where I keep all my supplies, like my altar cloth, more candles,
It's your sacred
oils, stuff like
space.
that. Yeah, it's where I keep all of my magical tools. And I do own things like a magical wand that I
Mhm.
love very much, and some tools that I don't use. I've got some jars in there, spell jars that are still in there, just doing their job, charging the space. Spells that I cast long ago that I still want to keep going, so I'll refresh the jar every
Mm,
once in a while
great hoodoo. Hmm.
by letting it sit out under the moonlight or the sunlight, depending. I
Hmm.
have a black mirror on my altar, which is a scrying mirror. I also have a double pointed quartz crystal, which is placed in front of the black mirror in order to facilitate a connection. Now, I used to take that crystal because before COVID, I don't know if I can say that word, before the thing that happened 2 years ago, I would do in-person tarot readings, and that was how I
Right.
conducted my business. And I would use that crystal. I would put it right between me and my client to facilitate the psychic connection.
Oh, okay. That's how you
Yeah.
do. All right.
Now I have it on my altar to facilitate my connection to the metaphysical realm, which then I have to filter through to Zoom, because I do my client readings just like you and I are
Okay.
talking right now over Zoom.
Hmm.
I also have some crystals here on my desk that help me connect to my client. Um, it's been a little bit of a transition, but I've kind of finally figured out my method for connecting to people over Zoom. It's a little harder.
Yeah, I
It's harder
agree.
when you're
I
not
agree.
sitting right in the presence of their aura. It
I
becomes
agree.
so easy, but it
I'm
It's
doing
going
this.
just
I'm
fine.
doing the same thing, even on
Yeah.
telephone or FaceTime.
Hmm.
And I've started to do psychic fairs. They've started back this year, so I've done a couple
Hmm.
of psychic fairs, which is that one-on-one,
Yeah.
knee to knee, just like in
I miss
school.
that so much.
I know it is fun.
Because for one thing, I had the ability to charge less. Because I would only charge $10 for a reading because they would go quick, and I would set up my table and I'd have a line all day long.
Right, and
So I
it's
would get to see a lot of people and help a lot of people.
10
Now,
minutes and
because
it's
I'm doing
done.
it online, I have to charge a little bit more, and
Right.
I also offer more time, just because it's not like a festival where you have a big old line.
Right. Here's the sign up sheet, tell
Yeah,
me your
yeah,
time.
yeah.
The way and I'm going to want to find out how you read tarot cards. The way I read tarot cards is I just use the Rider White deck. And,
Hmm.
there are, of course, 20 meanings for each card.
Hmm.
And I thought, I'm a little too lazy for that. I just don't want to have to memorize everything. So what I've done is I use them as a jumping off point, using my psychic ability, use them as a jumping off point to do the reading. And if I want to throw 3 cards, it's because that's what I got. All right, this time it's 4 cards, or this card now means, many different things depending on the situation. So I use them as a jumping off point. How do you read tarot cards? Because everyone does it differently.
Yeah, everyone does, and that's one of the things with tarot. It's like it really lends itself to chaos magic because there's so many different ways you can work with the cards. Now
Right.
I haven't memorized every possible meaning of every card, but I would say I've definitely got the general meanings memorized. That's because I'm a big book nerd and I really like to read and
Right.
memorize things.
You
But it's
definitely have to
not
read
my
it.
method. My method for reading tarot is actually similar to yours. It's very intuitive, and I put together the story that the cards are telling me.
Right. They do.
I have many little agreements that I've made with my cards. Oftentimes, when I'm reading for a new client, the first card I'll pull will be a court card telling me about the personality archetype of that client.
Okay.
If it's a client I've read for many times, that won't happen.
Yeah.
If it's
You
a
already
regular,
know.
I don't need that information. But if it's a new client, that's often what will happen. So with the new client, I'll often do 4 cards for the first reading and then go on to 3. I like to do sets of 3, and I also
Yeah.
will always include the numerology in the reading. So if, let's say, we pull the Ace of Pentacles, the Ace of Swords, and then the High Priestess, then I would add that up to be a total of 4. And 4 would be
Gotcha.
the overall energy of the reading, and then I would include the numerology. I also really like to get my client's astrology chart up on the screen while we're doing the reading, so I can take that into account, because the more information I have, the more the cards make sense. The
Mm,
more they're telling me about the
I
the
see.
entire situation. If I can see that somebody, for example, has Mars in Pisces, then I'm going to know that this person is going to be very prone to act on their emotions, and that's going to inform the reading a little bit more. I like to get as much information as I can. I'm sort of an information nerd. Um,
That's interesting the way you integrate all these different aspects into your tarot card reading. That's fantastic.
it's I like, my brain likes to go fast, so I like to add all these things together. And the way, even that, like I said, now I've pretty much memorized the meanings of all the cards, but it wasn't so much that I tried to. It's just that I've been doing this a long time now. But my
Mhm.
method in the beginning was always to understand the numerology and the element. So if you understand the numerology 1 through 9, or 1 through 10 in the case of tarot, 10 being death and rebirth, and you can see the cycles as they go through the 4 suits, you can take the numerology and take the suit, right? Let's say the 4, which is the number of stability and often family,
Mhm.
and add it to, let's say, wands, the 4 of wands, wands being spirit. And 4, so one of the key words that I use for the number 4 is always gathering. So I'm thinking, okay, a gathering of spirit, family. The first thing that comes to my mind is, oh, it's sort of a card of celebration. It sounds like a party to me,
Mhm.
right? And that's what the 4 of wands really is. It's a
Reunion.
card of
Mhm.
celebration.
Nice.
Yeah. So, but just by adding those things together and understanding all these correspondences, that's what, to me, I'm able to enter a sort of trance channeling state just by taking in all those informations, and the story just kind of comes out of me.
Yeah,
Now,
it's good.
on another
Love
way
it.
that, in conjunction to that, another thing that's happening simultaneously when I read tarot cards is that I'm asking my spirit guides to connect to the spirit guides of my client and relay the information back that's most important.
Okay, you don't go to um, past loved ones for messages and stuff.
that is a different type of reading, and I do that too, but it works a different way.
I know.
So it's not the same. If
It's
I'm
definitely
reading,
not tarot. It's typically not for mediumship work, for sure.
well, I do mediumship work through tarot, but here's how I do it. So if I was using the previous
Yeah,
method
tell
that
me
I
about
just
that.
described, that would be for someone who just came to me with general questions. If
Hmm.
someone comes to me and says, I want to connect to a loved one who just passed on, okay, no problem, I can do that too. Now, what I'm going to do in that is go right to that meditative headspace that I was telling you about, trying to just go as blank as possible and start shuffling the cards. Now, normally, if I wasn't trying to connect to an ancestor, I would just have a feeling of when to stop shuffling. The cards would just tell me.
Right.
But when I'm doing mediumship, trying to connect to a past loved one, more often than not, 9 times out of 10, I will feel them physically touch me. And that's how I'll know when to stop shuffling.
Okay.
It'll either be like a tap on the shoulder or on the knee or something.
Hmm.
That's
Right.
happened to me so many times now that I've just come to expect it, and that's what I do.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Yeah, for me, I don't use anything for mediumship readings. Um, my training is from London. We call it Hogwarts because it literally looks like Hogwarts to go to. It's
Awesome.
called the Arthur Findlay College.
Mhm.
And they've been closed for 2 years, but that's where it's knee to knee and old school spiritualism, where they're teaching, everything from trance channeling, psychic work, mediumship work, all sorts of unusual stuff from the old spiritualist world. But yeah, it's really a cool place to go for a week, and you literally are sequestered there. You're there from like in the morning. It starts 8 o'clock in the morning, and by 9:30 at night, you're done.
That
And
sounds awesome.
it is great fun. And it's, all the magical people are there and all the teachers. And you're literally sorted into classes on the first day. There's
Mhm.
60 folks, you got 4 tutors. Okay, this is after dinner, this is where you're going. I mean, it's phenomenal. And I've learned to do mediumship just with connecting with the energy, and providing evidence of who they were. The key is we want to paint them back to life and provide their personality and essence before we start getting into messages. So it's really cool. And we all do it, of course, differently. And I love to hear how other people do it as well. So that's really cool
Yeah.
how you do it.
I had 2 meetings with more traditional psychics who use methods similar to what you're describing. Both times I was able to talk to my dad. That happened before the Kundalini Awakening experience I was telling you about a year
Oh,
before
right,
both
right.
times, and that really sparked it all off. And one of the first mediums was able to do was describe my dad's limp and his cancer. Because
Right.
he walked with a cane and he had this awful pain in his right side, and that's what eventually killed him. But so when I'm sitting there in the room with him, and this is interesting because I didn't even go for me, I was just there as emotional support. I was there with my ex-wife actually, who was there to. She was there to see the medium. I was just in the room,
Right.
and the
And
guy looks right at
unfortunately,
me, and he's
that
like,
means you're going to get the reading
"Yeah."
probably
But
his.
so she got very little out of it. The guy was like, "There's someone here who wants to talk to you so bad that I can't.
Right. That's
Like,
the
I
problem with
can't.
bringing a
This is
friend
the
to a
yeah."
reading.
Yeah. So it ended up being that my dad came through, and then I was actually really freaked out by that at the time. I was not
Sure.
emotionally prepared for it, so I left the room and let her continue on with her reading. And then about a year after that, I went back, not to the same reader, but I was in New Brunswick at the time. I don't remember what I was doing. I was just hanging out in New Brunswick. And I went to see another medium, and she again let me have like a long conversation with my father, and
Nice.
it was unbelievable.
It's magical, isn't it, when you
Yeah.
can really make a good connection?
Yeah, and some people, I mean,
Oh,
the connection she had is what I aspire to, because I can read through the tarot, but she knew things that you could not possibly know unless you were
right. That's
me.
what we're trained to do at Hogwarts.
Yeah,
And how to do
yeah,
it, and using your psychic senses, your clairsentience, your
yeah.
clairaudience, your clairvoyance. You got to figure out what are your go-tos. And that's what I teach my students.
Mhm,
Um, is okay, let's do an evaluation of what are your special gifts. Now let's develop those gifts, because not
mhm,
everybody is clairvoyant. And you know what? That's okay, because you can't really get a whole lot of information by just seeing something. You got to feel them, you got to sense them, and you can gather so much more information that way. So yeah, it's phenomenal the way you learn to gather information, and you get that connection, and you just give them information. Like, I have no, I like this woman. I always like to find out how people died as well. And I remember her talking to this woman's grandmother. I got her personality, and yeah. And then I said, okay, to this spirit, I said, okay, and how did you pass? And she said, my head was on fire. I thought, Well, it's kind of odd. I know how I got it. It's correct the way I got it. So I'm just going to see if she makes any sense. So I told her daughter, I said, well, when I asked her how she passed, she said her head was on fire. She says, oh my God, you got my grandmother. I said, can you explain it? She says, yes, she was shot in the head by the Mexican cartel. And I thought that was an elegant way of saying that you were shot in the head.
Yeah.
And she brought forth her son, which was this woman's uncle. And I thought, what happened? What was he there at the same time? I feel like the same. I got his personality and some things he'd like to do. And I said, well, I feel like he was there at the same time with her. Is that how he died? She says, no. He also was shot in the head by the Mexican cartel, but at a different time. So that's why you got a little same. So it's really fascinating stuff. And it's amazing to get. And we learn not to edit what we get because, God knows.
No, you can't do that.
You can't guess it.
The moment you start doing that, okay, and this is what bothers me. I have a real dislike of fake psychics.
Me too.
I kind of want to kick them all in the shins because the moment you start telling people what you think they want to hear, you're done. You're fake. Go do a reality TV show. Get out of this business. You'll probably make a lot more money than you and I ever do being real. But I'm so sick of these people.
Yeah.
Because it's like and I see them. The toxic positivity that exists in the spiritual community is so, you could choke on it. And it really bothers me when you start seeing these spiritual messages that are all just nothing but love, light, positivity, because that's what people want to hear.
Right. That's the easy go-to line, isn't it?
Yeah. It's annoying and it's fake. And so I always pride myself on being very real with my clients. And even if I think that what I'm saying doesn't make sense to me, I'm still going to say, well, here's what the cards are saying. Even if it seems to go against what I would think, because oftentimes those are the readings that are the most meaningful.
They're very powerful when you're, being honest and, as they say, shooting from the hip, just saying the way it is rather than trying to sugarcoat it, but making it in such a way that it's, productive and helpful and not hurtful, of course. But it's amazing. I'm the same way. It's like be more of a realist.
Yeah. I do like to look at the positive aspects of what's going on in a person's life.
Absolutely.
And that's what I really try to counsel my clients into is how to deal with the situation. But if I'm reading for a client, and I've said this a few times on my own show, if I pull the Tower and the Death card, I'm not going to sit there and say, oh no, you're in big trouble, because the Tower is the fall of established patterns. And that's probably a good thing. Change is good. It might be painful change, but hey, that's what life is. And then death, well, what comes after death? Always rebirth. New exactly. It's about being equipped to handle the situations in your life that are coming up. And that's why numerology, astrology, and tarot and witchcraft and magic are all so important, because they empower you to deal with what's happening in your life. They are not ways to avoid what's happening in your life. They're not ways to think your way out of it. And this seems to be the message that I see so often in spiritual circles, and it annoys the heck out of me. These are tools to understand yourself, to understand your relationship to the universe, to understand your position within it and how you can navigate it more effectively. It's not going to just suddenly fix everything for you. I mean, magic almost can, but you have to be very dedicated to it and dedicated to your own personal growth. And you need to have the ability to look at the positive in any situation, because that's something that magic really teaches you. It is about synchronicity and the positive aspects of synchronicity and the negative aspects of synchronicity, and that synchronicity is the organizing principle of the universe. So, learning to use it to your advantage rather than your disadvantage, because it's going to happen either way.
I always tell people you learn from these horrible things that are happening to you, or these experiences. It's a gift. If you have to unlock that gift, learn the lesson, or else the universe will provide it a different way, and it'll be a different box. Because I didn't learn the first time. Let's talk about your Order of Chaos organization. Tell us about that.
All right, so the Order of Chaos is a number of things. I like to describe it as a secret society, so secret you don't even know that if you're in it. Really, it's a way of me describing my close group of friends who are also occultists.
Okay.
But on top of that, it's a podcast, and through the podcast, I run a Patreon. And if you join the Patreon, it says, join the order. You become an official member of the Order of Chaos.
Right.
And by joining, you get access to my blog and my magical rants and sigils that I create. You get access to a Discord server. It's special for my patrons, and you get the unedited version of my podcast. So it's just a way for me to create a community around the show. Now, that's not what it ever set out to be. That's kind of what it is on the exterior. On the interior, when I had that Kundalini Awakening experience and I started, my spirit guides kind of explained to me that this is what I'm here to do, is help people understand this stuff. And that, I have a day job that I go to every day. But this is what I do at night, as I'm very dedicated to helping people out of the mental health crisis that so many people are in today through the context of magic, esotericism, numerology, astrology, witchcraft, as using these tools for self-empowerment, like I was saying. So one of the things that just came to me in a meditation one day was the name, the Order of Chaos. And it was just planted right in my head by Thoth. And then later on, and still to this day, I'm coming to understand the multiple meanings that these words have. Number one, it obviously refers to a magical order. And again, I said that's the exterior. But on the interior, we're talking about order and chaos. These are the two primordial forces, left brain versus right brain. I'm sorry, versus isn't the right term. Left brain, right brain, as above, so below, order and chaos, the two primordial forces that shape all of reality. And all order is initially derived from chaos. By bringing order to chaos, we organize our lives. By understanding that chaos is the natural order of things, we can understand how the universe works. We can start to understand concepts like entropy. So it just had a tremendous amount of meaning to me, and it was interesting to me because around the same time as when I discovered Jordan Peterson, who I'm a huge fan of, and he had written a book that I think was called The Antidote to Chaos, and I thought that was very interesting because all these things kind of just coincided together at the same time. There's a line in the Emerald Tablets, which I again was reading shortly after the name came to me, and I can't quote the book because I'll butcher it, but it's talking about light bringing forth order from chaos. It was a passage right there in the book, from which is written by supposedly by Thoth, and I mean I would say it was channeled by Thoth. I don't know if it was actually written by Thoth. I'm not going to get into mythology because I don't have a time machine. So, but just that's the spirit guide that delivered it to me, and then there it was in this book referencing him was very, very powerful for me.
So your podcast can be found where?
If you just search The Order of Chaos on Spotify, or go to youtube.com/The Order of Chaos, or instagram.com/The Order of Chaos, or go ahead and find the website, which is www.theorderofchaosmagick, that's spelled MIGICK.com, and you can find links to everything there.
Excellent.
The Order of Chaos Magick.
Oops, hang on a second.
That's spelled MIGICK.com, and you can.
I'm trying to look at questions, and you have to do that by just going to your phone because you really can't do it from your desk. So. Let's see here. We've got Vanessa's excited to see this interview. Everyone's very excited about hearing about this. Let's see here. When you answer me. It says, when or in what situation would one use a chaos magician, as opposed to, say, a priest or some other type of practitioner? Are they adept at certain types of entity removals more so than others?
Well, that depends on your belief system. If you were raised Catholic and you have a Catholic belief system, then the Catholic priest is the right person to go to for you.
I agree.
Because you're working within a system that makes sense to you. I would say chaos magicians are great people to go to for understanding of the metaphysical reality, not particularly for banishing entities, unless you don't have a particular belief system. And that applies to a great many people. If you weren't raised with any particular religious belief system and you don't have one in particular, a chaos magician might be exactly the right person to go to, because they'll be able to work with multiple systems and say, okay, let's figure out what's going on here.
And you're open to them.
Work with you're open to it, and then find the correct system and right way to ask this thing to leave. But again, it depends on Now, the way Peter Carroll put it is nothing is true, everything is permitted. And the way I would say that, what I derive from that is that your experience of reality will conform to your beliefs about it. And why I think chaos magic is really so interesting, and why this is a new tradition. It's only been around since the 70s. A very new magical tradition that's going to really pioneer the way into the future is that we're not working with any one particular system. We're looking at the underlying mechanics of metaphysics.
I agree. That's really important, because I'm learning as I'm interviewing all these different people. Everyone's basically doing the same thing, but a little differently, and it's all dependent upon their background, their history, their interest, their experiences in life, or their lack of religious, upbringing. It's pretty fascinating. We all want the same thing. We want to understand this world better. We want to be able to understand our ability to create magic, to make things happen, to be more in charge of our life, to help others, those kind of things. And so everyone just does it a little differently. And sometimes you figure out where you fit in.
Yeah. I mean, I think chaos magicians are generally great people to go to for explanations that aren't dogmatic or religious in nature, because most people who are of a religion will tell you this is what it is and that's objective truth.
Right.
And I would never do that. I would say, and what I believe is that there is an underlying metaphysical realm, which I would call the chaos realm, the spirit realm, but I don't want to try and further define it past that. I think further definitions past saying there is an underlying spiritual realm or metaphysical realm, the quantum realm, we could even call it. To further define it past that, what you're doing is creating a language with which to interact with it. So any religion is a language which you can use to interact with that metaphysical realm. Now, it is my personal opinion that some of these languages are better than others.
Of course.
But that's just my personal opinion. It's about what works for you and about your belief system. One of the benefits to not being a chaos magician, this is something I think about all the time. If you are fully invested in one particular belief system, then your belief in that system is probably very, very, very strong. As a chaos magician, it's a little bit harder, or it takes a little more training to fully immerse yourself into a belief system, because underneath that you have the underlying belief that this is just a system.
Exactly.
Right? Whereas if you are, let's say, a Norse pagan and you are fully invested in Odin, Thor, Loki, Freya, and the Norse gods as being your personal guides, and them being like the objective truth of the spiritual realm, and animism being objectively true, then you're fully in that belief system. And you might have a little more power with it. But I like the approach of being able to work with multiple systems and look at the underlying mechanics.
Right. You're not tied to one particular one, which has got its, benefits and disadvantages, but you've got more tools, and you can, maneuver around a lot easier in different situations.
It's like being a chef and learning to cook multiple cuisines.
Right. It's like, okay, we do all of it. We're not just doing Italian.
Yeah.
Have you ever cleansed a home?
Only my own. Multiple times. I've cleansed in many, many ways. I told this story a couple times on the podcast, but I was semi-possessed at one point while using a Ouija board, which I will never touch one of those things ever again. And then I had to do a very serious banishing of my home. And I always cleanse after client readings, because I don't want that energy stuck on me. A lot of my clients are going through something. Yeah, I try to create the most neutral ritual space I can in my home. Keep it, just keep it as neutral as can be, because I deal with a lot of energy from other people.
Let's see here. As we get, it sounds like we're time to the end of our show here. Why don't you tell everybody about any upcoming events for you, how they get in touch with you, what services you provide, how they can sign up for a reading or a different kind of service?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can check out the podcast. Like I said, just go to Spotify and search The Order of Chaos, or you can go to youtube.com/The Order of Chaos, Instagram.com/The Order of Chaos, Patreon.com/The Order of Chaos if you want to sign up for the Patreon. It's only $3. You get access to the unedited podcast as well as occasional blogs and sigils, stuff like that. If you want to book a private tarot reading with me, you can do so at www.theorderofchaosmagic.com. That's magic with a CK.
Right.
There's a button right there that says book a reading. I offer several different services. I offer tarot readings. I offer what I call the Arrow of Destiny reading, which is a system that I created myself, or sort of figured out myself, that is it's your life path number, your destiny number, and your analysis of your north and south nodes, the sign and the house, to give you an idea of what your soul came here to do on earth in this lifetime. I do mediumship. Everything's listed there on my website.
Oh, nice. Excellent. Let's see. And for me, folks can contact me through my website or email. Both of them are Kevin Paul Psychic Medium. One's a .com and the other's at Gmail. My services are, I'm a psychic and medium, and so I do readings. I can do both together. I can do one or the other. I do free mediumship readings, my kind of give back to my community on Thursdays, and you can sign up on my website for those. I also teach beginners, psychic and medium students, on how to develop their abilities. And I call my academy the Academy of Real Magic with a CK, which is basically a one-on-one coaching program to give you a good foundation after we're doing a full abilities analysis and say, okay, these are your gifts. Let's work on developing them. Let's see how, and you can learn all different ways. And I take students through all of that to get them to the point where, okay, now it's time for you to go and find other, different magical groups or people to study from. But I give you a good, that's the elementary school for development, I call it. And my upcoming shows, I do my live shows on Facebook, and then I just copy them over to YouTube, is December the 2nd at 2:30. The topic will be science and the paranormal. My guest will be Dr. Jim Gold, a professor of psychiatry at the University of Maryland. He also is at the Maryland Psychiatric Research Center, which is at the second oldest psych center in the United States, with these old buildings from, the 1800s, where that's where they kept people who, they didn't know what to do with. And I was recruited by him to be in his NIH-funded research study on people who hear voices, whether from schizophrenics to psychic mediums to people in the middle who don't. And so we went through so many tests, and I was in an MRI for up to 4 hours over a couple of days.
Wow.
So we're going to talk about that and what science is doing in studying psychic mediums and what they've learned so far and such. And then on the 10th of December, the topic is going to be healers and healing, with my guest who's Reiki and healing touch practitioner Elizabeth Wild. We're going to discover the mystery and the art of healing and the different types of practices and healers. So my thing is all about education and understanding and learning about different aspects of the metaphysical world, the paranormal world. I've done paranormal researchers on here before, all sorts of fun things, people who hunt for ghosts all over the world. And I've done that as well, and that's on my YouTube channel. So those are some of the things that are coming up for me. Did you have anything that you wanted to put
no,
out there?
nothing I can think of that I wanted to add. I guess I should say I do also offer a one-on-one training in Hermetic philosophy and Chaos Magick. That's another service you can find on my website.
Perfect.
Yeah, but that's it, man. This has been really fun. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you so much, Andre, for coming on and talking about your journey in the world of metaphysics and magic, because we all have different journeys, and it's really fun to understand and to listen to each other's journeys, and it's pretty magical to be able to do that with you.
I totally agree. And again, I just want to reiterate that is, to me, what is beautiful about this field, is that we can all share and listen to each other, and all just get a bigger sense of the bigger picture. I'm so against the my religion is right and yours is wrong mentality.
Correct.
And I think the more we do to talk to other practitioners of other practices and get their ideas and share them back and forth without any animosity or fighting, it's just a beautiful thing.
And we can learn from each other, like, oh, I'm going to take a little bit of that. Oh, I like the way he's doing that or she's doing that.
Yeah,
It's wonderful.
Definitely.
Well, thank you
Definitely.
so much for being on my show, and I'll be definitely in touch. I'm sure we've got some other topics to talk about for next.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Take
Bye bye.
care. Bye-bye.